Youth Weekly, Euthanize in News.
Hello and welcome to yet another exciting edition of your favorite TV program, Youth Weekly on UTV Africa, the program that brings to you highlight of news making headlines during the week in the language and perspective of young people. I am Hyelda Apollos.
And I am Sandra Ikeri. You're welcome. Here are some of the issues that made headlines in the news this week. Senate advocates death penalty for oil thieves. 2013, privatization to lift government revenue by $2.24 billion. Abuja Warri bombing, Henry Oka to spend 24 years in prison. 900 corps members seek redeployment from Kano. Already popular but saddening, Professor Chinua Achebe is dead. In a similar development, House wants National Library named after Achebe. Akpabio admits to rigging primary election. Lagos terror threat. NIS repatriates 57 illegal Nigerians. And on the foreign scene, Pope Francis shuns grand apartment for 2 rooms. We are still waiting for Alamesea in UK. Envoy says FG ignored request for his extradition. These were some of the issues that made headlines in the news this week. Join us shortly as we engage in insightful discussions on these interesting headlines from a youth perspective. Stay with us.
Youth Weekly, Euthanize in News.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, please. Thank you.
All right, there is a lot of news that have been making headlines this week.
Okay.
Which of them seems to get your attention?
Well, I think I'm interested in privatization of government, especially in terms of NEPA.
Okay. And what about that? Do you think that's the favorable thing government can do for the masses? Is it the best way to go?
Yes, I think it is. It's more than due.
Okay.
The truth of the matter is that, the way Nigerians started, we've always believed in this socialist ideology.
Okay.
But when you generally look at the world today, we are now in a market economy. No doubt about that. Many of the Asian countries that you talk about, Asian tigers like China, are gradually, embracing this market economy.
Okay.
You talk of Russia, that has happened, and so on and so forth. And there's nothing Nigeria can do except to queue into those things and take advantage of it.
Okay.
Because the government property is like no man's property.
True.
And that's the point. But once you allow the private sector to take lead, then these people work for profit.
Yes.
And they will create efficiency.
Okay. Accountability
will be there.
Okay.
And then there will be competition. The prices eventually will come down and more people will be employed. Because once there's competition, you can source for the right fund, there's profit, there's accountability. There's no way you're not going to. So it's the right way to go as a country. And we don't even have to debate this, because when you look at what has happened in the telecom sector, people were making all the noise when they were about to do it. Okay. But today we know the advantage.
Yes, there's a saying that says no pain, no gain. Yes, and the young business people that are growing, it will not be easy for them. But all the way around, it will be better because they will have a steady light which they are sure of. Even when they pay, you understand, they will be sure of what they paid for, and they use it accordingly. The power sector has a lot of areas. They have distribution, they have generation, they have other sectors, so those sectors will be employers of labor, because when it goes to private sector, they create more jobs out of those zones.
Youth Weekly, Euthanize in News.
You're welcome back to the program. If you're just joining us, this is Youth Weekly on Youth TV Africa. Now, privatization has been a wave sweeping both the industrialized and developing nations of the world. Nigeria has seemed to key into this wave and is making the most of it. Recently, in the power sector, reforms have been taking place and bids have been made to privatize the PHCN. Now, Sandra, in as much as I know there are advantages to privatization, however, I have a major concern with the privatization of the power sector, because sincerely, I believe there is going to be a huge impact of that on the common man that constitutes actually the majority of Nigerians.
Sure.
So my question is, are there measures being taken by the government to cushion the effect of what this privatization is going to result in the life of the common man? Because you see, privatization, as good as it is going to affect people in different ways. Now, there's a gap in the economic status, socio-economic status of Nigerians. Okay, there's the upper class, there's the middle class, there's also the lower class. All right. Now, with privatization, the elite who belong to the upper class actually get surplus of whatever privatization is going to bring about. The middle class will be able to afford it at an exorbitant rate. Now, however, the lower class majorly will be placed out because they would not be able to afford it at that time. And so I have a concern with what happens between the gap, the privatization is instituted, and then how long is it before the ordinary Nigerian will be able to afford the services that will come from this.
Yeah, I clearly understand what you just said, but the truth is that the power sector is a very, very key, one of the key sectors in Nigeria or in any economy of the world.
That is true.
Yes. Now, when we talk about privatization, it doesn't imply that the government will totally hands off from this sector.
Okay.
They will just welcome, private, firms and individuals on board.
Okay.
People who feel they are capable to make this sector work more efficiently, who feel they'll be able to produce the desired results. Because we both know that this sector has actually suffered from certain mishaps since independence.
And a lot of money has been pumped.
Millions of dollars have been sunk into this. So now when you talk about privatization, people just look at it, very lightly. People who feel they are capable, would want to, can, or are invited to come and work in the sector. Now, they know they would have competition. And when they are coming with a mindset to produce at least cost, so they can maximize their output and also maximize profit. Now, people fear that these people are just profit-oriented, and therefore there will be a tendency of exploitation.
Of course.
Now, when
we have seen it time and time again.
Okay.
All right. The telecommunications sector has actually shown Nigerians.
The truth is that there is no gain without pain.
Okay.
Now, I am not against the fact that certain measures should be put in place to curtail the effect or the transition of this once nationalized sector to a private sector.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say is that when people come on board, there is this presence of competition. When there is competition, you want to ensure that you have the ability to supply to a larger portion of the market. Now, when you talk about larger portion here, we are talking about the populace, the masses who actually live below the poverty line.
Are you sure that is the case? Because, like we said, it's not all sectors of the economy that will be able to afford these services.
Sure.
And unlike the telecommunications that have leverage in terms of the installation of their services, okay, it's a cellular network kind of thing, so they don't have to go house to house installing their base stations and their masts. All right, power has to be tapped directly from the source. You have to pay for it in order to get it. All right, so the cost of installation will mean that they are going to charge exorbitant rates, especially at the beginning, until competition, like you said, drive the cost down.
For you
and like one of our respondents in the street interview we just saw was saying, okay, that of course there are advantages to the privatization. Okay, competition is going to drive the cost down. There will be employment. There will be more efficiency.
Wastages.
My own challenge really is simply, how does the government intend to cushion the effect on what seems to not even seem what constitutes the larger percentage of the Nigerian
That's what I just said. Privatization doesn't imply the government to totally hands off. The government is going to regulate the sector. Okay. It's going to have laid down principles. You should know how much you have to be able to invest in this sector. Okay. So you can't just have a little or no capital and you want to come because we just know you're coming to exploit the people. Okay. But when you have sufficient capital and you're a good businessman, the power sector is where you want to make your profit on the long run, not immediately. Yes.
All right, but we'll let you be the judge of that. You can make your comments as to whether you think privatization is the best way to go in terms of the power sector reform or not. You can go to our Facebook page on facebook.com/UTV Africa and post your comments.
Youth Weekly, euthanizing news.
A regular visitor to the newsstand will actually be struck with Chinua Achebe's death.
Okay.
Yes.
What's your take on the issue, and what's the implication for young people?
Well, the implication for young people is that a lot of things have to be removed from Chinua Achebe's legacies.
Wow.
Right from his writing skill,
okay,
his vocalism,
yes,
and then his ability to fight government policies.
Definitely.
You can remember when during the time of Sani Abacha,
yes,
he was invited to come for national honors, which he rejected.
Okay.
The reason was that it is a military regime.
Okay.
But then we also look at the situation where in a civilian regime, he was also invited to come and take a national honor.
Okay.
He still turned it down.
Right.
Why? He was not happy with the policies of government as far as corruption was concerned.
True.
You understand? Yes. That is one aspect. I was trying to tell your lady, I said, why must he be turning national honors down?
Yes.
It's because there are some things he's not appreciating. Unfortunately, he couldn't fight the battle until he passed on. That is why when I saw his demise on pages of newspaper, I wasn't happy.
So what do you think we could learn from?
Well, I advise the youths that are coming up, those that are still in secondary school. In fact, they should make it a habit. It should be it should be their hobby to write,
yes,
and I believe it will help us.
So that
go
maybe one day we'll have someone to actually
to replace him.
Youth Weekly, euthanizing news.
Quite saddening, I must tell you. It's been a week of mourning, and then it's been one of, reflection for me. The fall of an Iroko tree.
Okay.
Yes, the exit of a literary giant, Professor Chinua Achebe. I never got to meet him in person, but at least I read some of his work.
Okay.
That's nice. This loss has actually brought pain to the hearts of many Nigerians.
The first thing that comes to my mind at the mention of his name is things fall apart.
Yes.
And what really strikes me is the fact that he wrote this book when he was at the age of 28.
Yes.
He was actually a young person.
Yeah.
It's outstanding that such a young person at such an age will be able to put forth such a material that will affect lives at this scale.
Yeah.
Okay, the impact of things fall apart is just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a legacy that young people need to look out for. You don't have to wait until you are of a certain age before you will make the desired impact you want to make. All right, because so far I believe it's the most significant writing he has ever had.
Yes,
it has made waves. It has been translated into different languages. Okay, it means young people can actually put forth intellectual material that could stand the test of time.
Yeah, and
interestingly, it's a legacy we should imbibe.
Okay, interestingly, one of the key issues he actually portrayed in his book Things Fall Apart, his hard work. Okay. Now you want to envisage what he was thinking as at that time when he was just 28, where he was able to portray hard work and integrity.
Yes.
Okonkwo was actually synonymous to hard work.
Okay.
But these days, every young person, or what the society has modeled to every young person is anything goes. They don't try to show you that hard work can actually pay. So I'm really intrigued that if this man at this young time believed in this virtue and it has brought him this far, I think young people should start thinking in his direction, in same line with him.
Definitely. And also for me is the fact that he recognized where his passion lies.
Yeah.
In spite of having a scholarship to study medicine,
yeah,
he actually discounted that scholarship and went to read what he had passion for.
And he did very well at it.
To make an impact for his life.
Yes.
So for young people out there, I think it's a message. What is your passion? You need to discover where your turf is, where you can better make an impact and dwell in it to make the best of your life, and take advantage of that to sway your influence across the globe, just like the literary giant did. Now, we want to know what you think about Chinua Achebe's legacy, and you can post your comments on our Facebook page. Facebook.com/YouthTV Africa is the address. Just go there and post your comments. I will be happy to share your comments with our audience in our next edition. Stay with us as we will be back shortly to engage a guest in the studio on some of the issues in the headlines of the news this week.
Youth Weekly, euthanizing news.
We are part of the solution.
We bring you youth perspective on issues. Youths have a voice.
we have the story to tell.
Youth Weekly, euthanizing news.
Welcome back. The program is still Youth Weekly. This is the second phase of our discussion segment. We have our guest in the house. He's a public analyst and a political scientist. His name is Mr. Collins Attah. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
What's your take on the fact that a public office holder, the governor of Akwa Ibom State, His Excellency Governor Akpabio, publicly admitted to have rigged a primary election in his state? How do you feel about it?
Before I state my position on that matter, I would like to reiterate on what His Excellency the Governor of Akwa Ibom State said. Okay. During the Good Governance tour visit led by the Minister of Information to Akwa Ibom State, the governor was publicly trying to assert how he's been able to disburse democratic dividends to his people. And that was where he publicly made mention that the federal constituency had never been represented in the National Assembly. But by his efforts, he was able to get somebody from the constituency to emerge at the primaries.
Yes, and for the first time.
Now, on my take, and the take of every informed Democrat, that statement was perfectly undemocratic. It is unacceptable to democracy. It is not the kind of statement that a man of His Excellency's personality as the chairman of the ruling party's board of governors should make. We were disappointed. But unfortunately, people cheered because they felt he was giving them a democracy dividend.
He even asked the senator to take a bow, which he did.
Yes. So democracy dividends are not the people, it's not by an individual appointing who becomes who. Such things should be expressed by the people through the polls.
My question is there any legal framework or electoral act that could address such an issue?
Yes. In Nigeria, we have the Electoral Act enacted by the National Assembly to take care of any issue that has to do with electoral malpractice or in the election candidates feeling that their positions were unduly stampeded on. They have the right to go to court, sue, and then expect their issues to be adjudicated upon. But unfortunately, most people are not informed about this. The electorate needs to be informed, the politicians need to be informed. But in our case, it appears to be very few politicians who, want to fight for their rights. That seems to be aware. The electorate are not informed, and that's the challenge. And that was why people cheered over such a popular undemocratic statement.
Okay, what impact do you think this singular statement of the governor would have on young political aspirants?
The impact is not only against young political aspirants in Nigeria, it is also against the entire democratic process. Our democracy have come a long way that we should be able to prove that we have learned, not learning at this level. It entrenches godfatherism for an individual to come up and say, I selected the person, I gave you a candidate. It is undemocratic. It is a principle of oligarchy, and we are not practicing a government where few individuals decide. We are supposed to be practicing a government where the people's decision takes the center stage.
And that would mean if this kind of action goes on, that means young people do not even stand a chance.
That is even the worst, because a question, they asked him a question there, and this was the question some people asked. They said, His Excellency, is there vacancy in government house in Akwa Ibom State come 2015? And I was wondering, because Governor Akpabio's tenure of 8 years will be elapsing by 2015. So what position does he have to decide if there is vacancy or not? It is simply because there is still this system where individuals decide who takes the political stage, which is not democratic, and it's not, does not have any headway for young people. It means we have no hope.
So what's the way forward?
The way forward is we have to be informed, and we have to debunk any undemocratic idea that is expressed, and then we have to to agitate. And that's what we are doing here. Yes. But when I mean agitate, agitation is not until we go to the street. Permit me to mention to you an incident in Anambra State, where one Mr. Toyin Woye from one of the federal constituency was elected, and INEC gave him certificate of return. But he was not sworn into the house. Wow. He went to court. The case is still in court, and then his pressure group, the National Association of Nigerian Students, because he was a former NANS president, they went to the National Assembly protesting. I mean, that is the way forward for young people, because they are informed and they know what to do. So I advocate that young people should get informed and agitate for their political rights.
All right, it has been wonderful having you here in the studio. I have actually learned a lot. Thank you very much. One last word from me, please.
The only thing necessary for evil to prevail in the society is for young, informed people to do nothing.
All right, Hyelda?
Well, like he rightly said, there needs to be an information, base for young people to be able to take their rights. If you are not informed, they say you are deformed. And so you settle for crumbs when you can actually have the bread. And so I want to challenge our young people to get informed. Get familiar with the Electoral Act and the Constitution to understand your full rights.
From me, it's all about positivity. Be an instrument for positive societal change. Let us know how you feel on these critical issues of national development. How do you feel about the death of Professor Chinua Achebe? Do you think Nigeria is ready for privatization? How do you feel when a public office holder openly admits to rigging primary election in his state? Drop your comments, drop your observation on our Facebook page, facebook.com/youthtvafrica. From me, it's bye-bye.